Hello and welcome to The Lens with me, Sarah Travers. The Lens is a business in the community podcast in partnership with One Young World. I'm really pleased to introduce our guests to you today. They are Rob Heron, Northern Ireland Managing Partner of EY, a familiar name, no doubt, a global professional services firm providing assurance, consulting, strategy and transactions and tax services to businesses. And we're also delighted to be joined from Rio by Bruna Amaral, co-founder and Executive Director of Toti, a platform that promotes the inclusion of refugees and migrants in the tech sector and helps organisations grow their ESG performances through their social impact projects. So in this episode, we're discussing the impact equation. Does social value add up for business? To find out, let's get into the conversation. Rob, Bruna, you're very welcome to The Lens. Before we get stuck into the social value and the social impact, I'd love for our listeners to hear a little bit about each of you. So Rob, if you don't mind, we'll start with you. Who is Rob Heron?
Thanks, Sarah. Yeah, so I grew up on a farm in rural Northern Ireland, and that actually is really important to me because it taught me two things. One, a work ethic, which I hope stands by me today, and two, also the real fundamentals of business. I studied here at Queen's University in Belfast and then moved over to England, became a qualified accountant. The next big sort of moment in my career came in 2005 when I took a year out to backpack around the world, and we literally went around the world, including spending some time in the beautiful country that Bruna's from. Came back to Northern Ireland and then I made tax partner here in 2009. And became managing partner almost 4 years ago now. You've already referenced what EY do, but we're one of the largest professional services firms in the world, provide all the services one might expect with a traditional accountancy firm: audit, tax, corporate finance. That's businesses buying and selling each other. But a very significant part of our business now is what we call consulting, and that's very much helping businesses through change management, transformation, digital technology, all those areas, and a big, huge part of our growing part of our business is data and AI. I'm also a board member of Business in the Community in Northern Ireland, which is something I'm really proud of, and they make a really significant impact here. A little bit about me: I still live back on our family farm in rural County Down. I'm married to Claudine, who is a director in the largest privately owned business here in Northern Ireland, together with two kids, Matthew, who's 17, and Ava, who's 15. I love all sport. And in particular, I love football. I do a bit of surfing on the north coast of Northern Ireland. I think it's okay to say I'm now a marathon runner. I've completed 5 marathons and I intend to do my 6th and 7th in the early part of 2026.
Wonderful that you've also been to Rio de Janeiro, where we head to next. Bruna.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. As you said, I'm a Brazilian. I was born and raised and based in Rio right now. And my background is international relations. And since college, my work has been always guided by a belief that talent is universal, but opportunity is not, especially when in a country like Brazil, which has received more than 2 million refugees and migrants in the past few years. So at Toti, as an executive director and a co-founder, my role is to lead our strategy and to build connections and bridges with companies, governments, and global partners, so we can include migrants and refugees in the economy in a real and a meaningful way. So over the past years, our programs have trained more than 2,000 people and helped many of them to double or triple their income. And now we are scaling our bold goal back to 10,000 refugees and migrants, 10,000 by 2028. So that's it, our vision.
And talk about having, business with a purpose and addressing one of the biggest challenges that we're currently facing in the world today. Obviously, the impact, and you've just told us the figures, it's going really well. But in terms of how it was received whenever you started this business up, how difficult was it to persuade others of the benefits of Toti?
Very difficult, but we managed it during the past few years. So we started Toti at college with 100% volunteer project. It was my final project at university. And we had the opportunity, me and some colleagues that now, which actually are my current partners at the business, social business, we started working with Congolesian community in Rio that are based in Rio, so from the RDC. And we saw that it was a challenge for refugees and migrants to get had opportunities in real good jobs. Also, on the other side, we saw many companies in Brazil struggling to hire good and qualified professionals, especially in the tech field. We saw the opportunity to create this project that before were 100% volunteers, and now this actually a social enterprise that's helping more than 2,000 migrants and refugees in all over the country.
It really is social value, social impact in action. Rob, what does social value mean to you in the context of your business, and why is it gaining so much attention right now?
Yeah, for me, if you really simplify it down, social value is doing the right thing as a responsible business. It's really important for a business to be viable that they do have strong financials, but it's also about doing that in the right way for the broader economy, for society, for your people, and for the environment. And this isn't new to EY. It's part of our DNA, and it's very much embedded in how we operate. EY Ripples, as it's called, would be our sort of primary program. It's a skills-based global volunteering platform, and it's the backbone of our corporate responsibility. And I think it's really important because if you look at the skills that we have as an organisation, I think we can make a huge difference. And actually, the ambition, the vision, as Bruna talked about a few minutes ago, of Ripples, bearing in mind we're a global organisation, is to positively impact the lives of 1 billion people. And already we're well on track for that. We've positively impacted the lives of more than 300 million people. So if you asked me why it's gaining so much attention now, well, I think it's because, quite rightly, all the stakeholders in business now have an expectation to do business in the right way and a responsible way. I look at EY, we're very much a people and technology business. But if we want to attract the best talent, you have to be a responsible business doing things in the right way. There's not only just an expectation, there's now also a requirement as well from our customers, our clients. All government contracts currently come with a social value clause. So part of the scoring mechanism to decide who wins contracts is based on social value. And I'm seeing that more and more come into commercial organisations as well. So absolutely fundamental and core to what we do for all the right reasons, Sarah.
And Bruna, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this question too. Very interesting to hear now that that's a government requirement. You've got to prove that you are making a difference. I don't know what the situation is in Brazil, but I presume you're going to agree that business can really have an impact by proving its social value. Doing the right thing is good for business.
Yeah, of course. In my experience, social value is what happens when inclusion becomes part of how business operates, not only as a separate initiative. It's when people who have been historically excluded finally have the opportunity to access economic opportunities, and this is in their families' benefit for generations. So especially in the refugee context, this is even more powerful. Many of the people we work at Toti that arrived in Brazil were escaping of war, climate disaster, political crisis. And when a company is open and opens the door to someone like that, this is not a charity, but as a recognition of their talent, the impact is huge. So it restores autonomy, identity, and hope. And doing the right thing is also just good business. So in Brazil, companies that hire refugees see lower turnover, more engagement in their teams, a real sense of purpose in their teams. So inclusion is no longer about helping, and it's something like charity. It's about strengthening their workforce and society at the same time.
Which is very important, Bruna, isn't it? Do you find that internationally people are wanting to hear more and learn more and share that best practice?
Yeah, exactly. And since last year, actually, we started to expand our partnerships more globally. So now we have partners that are international foundations in France. We are in UK and also in US. So we are expanding our international partnerships so we can bring more talent and bring more investment in the social business in Brazil.
Okay, well, let's just talk about business though. And, you know, Rob, you've talked about the bottom line ultimately is what every business needs to look after. But where do you see the tension between short-term financial goals and long-term social impact?
I think we'll have to be honest and say in business there can be tensions. I mean, I completely agree with Bruna. Attracting inclusive talent is not charity. That's sustainable growth for our business, and I'm very excited about that. But there can be tensions, and we need to be very honest about that. EY ran a global survey last year, and indeed 90% of the respondents had a concern that ESG could hurt short-term returns. But interestingly, almost on the flip side, 90% of institutional investors say that ESG is an important part of their investment strategy. Businesses are concerned about it, but equally they know they have to take it seriously because one, it's the right thing to do, and two, because investors are more and more focused on it. Whenever I think about, what can businesses do around that, there's probably two or three things that come to mind. It's about positioning ESG as a driver of resilience, growth, and competitive advantage. If I want to employ and attract the best people over a sustained period of time, they authentically want us to be a good organisation that is doing the right thing. So it's very much around our long-term competitive advantage. Secondly, I think enough businesses maybe don't engage with their investors and stakeholders proactively around this and how it does fit into long-term value creation, which after all is what investors are looking for. And lastly, I think it's just around improving ESG reporting. We quite rightly talked there about reporting data, and it's important we do that. I do think that some businesses, though, have taken too much of a compliance perspective on that. And I think it's more about proactively telling the story. I think data stats is useful and helpful. Of course, I would say I'm an accountant, but also I think it's really important you tell the individual stories, the case studies, the impact you're making as well, because then that makes it much more real for people.
How do you measure the fields, Bruna? How do leaders navigate this challenging time?
Good question. My experience is about the balance between promoting the emotional benefits, but also impact based in evidence. So the social return on investment is as important as any investment. When social organizations or social business started to understand that it's important to balance the impact with the financial proof, this changed everything. This changed the way you communicate with your investors, your partners. It's a very important learning that I have learned here.
Yeah, so we need the data, but we also need to capture the stories. And one of the things that business in the community does very well is offer senior business leaders a chance to gain an insight on the ground within communities into the challenges faced that perhaps people at a senior level in business aren't aware of. And Rob, I know you recently led a business in the community Seeing is Believing visit in Northern Ireland. Can you tell us a little bit about that and what happened?
So Seeing and Believing is about connecting business with those in society who find it most difficult to get a chance in the working world. So very much what Bruna is solving in Brazil. It was a really fantastic experience, and we met so much incredible talent, and there were so many inspiring stories along the way. And really, we just met lots of people who wanted to make a difference and were really just looking for a chance, for an opportunity. We visited 3 different organisations on the day. There was one who were supporting sort of ethnically diverse communities into employment, particularly asylum seekers, refugees. We also spent some time at a high security prison, which was an interesting and challenging experience for many of us. That was very much about reducing reoffending through skills and employment opportunities from those coming out of that institution. And then lastly, we spent some time with a youth organisation who were helping vulnerable young people. It's a very small community here in Northern Ireland with less than 2 million people here. But I think actually for some of these large businesses, it was a real eye-opener as to what is actually happening here. What came out of that was that inclusive employment is an incredibly powerful driver for social impact. People just want an opportunity. They've got some incredible skill sets. Two other bits important to me. Often people look to government to solve these problems, but business are the employers. Okay, we're the ones that can make a difference. Yes, policy, etc., can help facilitate that, but actually we're going to be the ones who are going to do it, supported by really good social impact entrepreneurs as yourself. So that was one of my key learnings. The other one was that we need tangible outcomes and actions to come from this. And, one of the key things is also really close to my heart is entrepreneurship. And that's why I'm delighted to have this conversation with you, Bruna. But it's also inspiring these people. A lot of them are like looking for jobs, etc. I'm really keen to inspire them to be entrepreneurs, because if you become an entrepreneur, your impact on society and the economy is a multiple. Even if you're a micro entrepreneur, you have 3, 5, 10 people in your team, that's where it all starts. But what a fabulous contribution that makes to the economy. So hopefully that makes sense, Bruna.
Absolutely. And I wanted to pick up, Rob, I'm just wondering, of those 3 visits, it is certain people will stand out and stay with you forever and perhaps challenge the biases you might have had. What sort of hit home that day?
I think it's what I said earlier. So you can talk about stats, you can talk about numbers, and we'll be aware of the number of refugees, asylum seekers, etc., that come into Northern Ireland, the number of economically inactive adults, etc. But it's when you get down to individual stories and you understand we lead a very privileged life here. Whenever you understand what people have done, the journeys they've had to go through, the challenges they've done, they've lost siblings, they've lost parents along the way, and all the difficulties they've come through, and yet they're here wanting to make a difference. Highly educated people, highly ambitious people. And I had some very senior business leaders with me, and I know it was one of the most impactful days in their entire career, some of them are saying.
And that's the thing, isn't it, Bruna? These people, it's great to say, become an entrepreneur, set up your own business. But if you don't have those connections or those advocates on your behalf to help you and support you do that, it's much more challenging, and you don't have the same opportunities and chances as those who have had an easier path in life.
Exactly. At Toti, we build a community to help and to give skills and ways. So people who want to start a company, for example, to become an entrepreneur, they have like network, they're becoming more skilled to be in the right places and events, to make connections. So we are improving these opportunities. So not only Brazilians or not only the people who were born and with more opportunities, not only this group of people have the opportunity to become an entrepreneur or to work in the growing economy jobs. So this is what we do as a social business for growing income for refugees and migrant community.
What role do you think technology is playing or will play in progressing social impact, either through AI or something else, Bruna?
So technology is essential for scaling impact, especially in Brazil as a larger country. AI and tech tools and also data tools can help us to match candidates to jobs more efficiently, to track employability outcomes, to personalize learning at scale. So technology is all in our methodology at Toti, and it's very important. But technology alone, it's not enough. So we believe that, especially for refugee community, to have this human connection is critical. Tech is a way to amplify inclusion, but not replace the relationship that make inclusion work. I see technology allowing organizations like ours to reach million more people, but the human and keeping humanity at the center is the key, in my belief.
Keeping humans at the center of technology, exactly what Bruna, as you said there. And for me, look at my perspective on this, like we're definitely going through a technology revolution right now. Some might say it is going to be bigger than an industrial revolution. History will decide if that's the case or not, but we're certainly going through a period of change. But I completely agree with Bruna, whenever it comes to social impact, it will be able to help brilliant social entrepreneurs like Bruna scale their businesses faster, quicker. It's going to help in areas such as with the environment, around predictability of climate change, etc. And also what would really excite me is really democratizing education, skills and training. One thing, we need to make sure that people are trained in technology and AI and they don't get left behind. There are lots of horror stories out there that AI is going to make millions and millions of people unemployed, and it might do. It's not my view, and I still remain very positive that technology can enhance the role for individuals and in employment and jobs, etc., without necessarily replacing them.
Yeah, absolutely. And then maybe they'll free everybody up to have more conversations like this and keep that human connection and keep humanity, basically. So I know you're both very modest people, and I'm perhaps trying to encourage you to tell us a few examples, tell us a few stories, if you like, and things that you're really proud of that you've either done through work or personally to make a difference for people. Bruna, can you tell us anything that you're particularly proud of?
Recently, one moment that I'm very proud of is one of our students, a recent training program. A student from Congo told me that before Toti, he had lost his sense of direction and his sense of hope, and after his leaving his home country. But after getting his first job in tech field through Toti programs, he said, now I'm building my life again and not just surviving. Moments like this remind me why we do this work, and not only about training, not only about employment, it's about rebuilding autonomy and restoring dignity. And from a system perspective, I am very proud that Toti is providing an incredible source of talent and innovation also for Brazil's economy.
It is no wonder that you are very proud of all that you have achieved. Rob, same question to you.
Maybe for me, Sarah, I'm very passionate about entrepreneurship. We run an EY Entrepreneur of the Year program here. It's actually a global program. It's very strong in the island of Ireland. I think entrepreneurship is really key for sort of economic growth. And just linked to that, I'm also do some work with an organisation called Young Enterprise Northern Ireland, Bruna, and that's very much about inspiring the next generation of young entrepreneurs. I was mentoring a special education needs school just outside of Belfast, and they were preparing to go to a local market. But really interesting in that conversation with one of the groups, the very first question I got was around making profit with honour, is how they described it. So straight away, these kids, they're young kids, were into a conversation about social value. Now, I was quite surprised and really inspired by it, and it just shows that very much social value is something that is fundamental to the future of our entire society. I'm also very proud that I'm part of business in the community in Northern Ireland, and we've referred to the saying is believing piece earlier. Actually, it's the entrepreneurship and inspiring the next generation of entrepreneurs really excites me.
So what then do you feel are the biggest challenges for businesses over the next 2 to 3 years, probably still looking through that lens of social impact? Bruna?
I believe the biggest challenge will be addressing talents, building inclusive and diversity teams, not only as a nice to have, but as a core business strategy. So in Brazil, for example, we have a paradox. We have millions of people unemployed, but thousands of companies unable to fill positions, especially in tech and digital skills. So I really believe that migrants and refugees can be part of this solution, but companies need support to do this well. And another challenge is adapting to the speed of AI transformation while ensuring people are not left behind, as Rob said before. The future of work must be inclusive or won't be sustainable.
Definitely. Well, migrants and refugees being part of that solution and the skills shortage in the tech world, that's probably something that resonates with you too, Rob.
Yeah, it is. It is, Sarah. I have been in business now for pretty much exactly 30 years, and I know there's always change in business, but it feels at the minute that globally there is more change, more challenge, which I appreciate can bring opportunity as well. Than there has been for quite some time. You look at the obvious examples around geopolitical uncertainty. But I also agree with Bruna, technology and AI transformation is a huge opportunity, but it's also a challenge for businesses. If they don't embrace it and they don't fully embrace it and embrace it properly, they're going to get left behind. Whenever they get left behind, that will create challenges along the way for them and their stakeholders, including their employees. And I couldn't agree more with Bruna around sort of the skills gap and workforce readiness. There's a phrase out there, I don't think it's an EY phrase, I think it's somebody else clever, even cleverer than us, like AI might not take your job, but somebody who knows how to use AI just might take your job. Okay, so you've got to be ready. You've got to be ready to embrace it. The fact of the matter is, with multi-generational workforces now, see the majority of people who are currently in your workforce could still be there in 2050. So we have got to reskill our people. For me, time of great change, time of great challenge clearly brings opportunity. But if you don't embrace that change, that opportunity, if you don't embrace the technology, I'm afraid there's a real risk you're going to get left behind here.
And it's just getting that access to the training the training's there. How do people get on those courses? This is the part of the podcast that we ask you to become the host. And I'm sure you've got lots of questions for each other. So I wonder if I could hand over to you, first of all, Rob, to see what questions you would like to ask of Bruna.
Bruna, you actually you did answer the question I wanted to ask earlier. And I said, look, it's all very well talking about, EY trying to change 1 billion lives and stuff, but it comes down to individual stories. I was going to ask you about a story of an individual life that you changed. So I won't ask that question. What I will ask you is, I genuinely find what you're doing truly inspiring. So, what inspired you to start to do this? What was the genesis of it, Bruna?
Wow, this is a very challenging question because I don't know. I really believe that is connection with my childhood. I was growing up, I was raised by my grandmother, but she was a teacher in public schools in my city. And she always leaves to me the learnings of social lens, to put social lens in the way of see the world and see the difference between opportunities. And she always remind me all the opportunities she was struggling to give me. So not in a bad way, in a good way of learning how I could use those opportunities to make social difference to the world. So I think I catch it and I put it in my workforce nowadays. So I had a big dream to become a diplomat. That's why I got in international relations graduation. But since the beginning of my graduation, I had the opportunity to start this 100% volunteer project with Congolese communities in Rio. And it catch me so much because I was studying the theory of international relations. And when I saw the opportunity to start practicing this and start to make a social change with my own workforce, this changes everything in my head and said, yeah, oh my God, I will start to being a social entrepreneur. And that's what I'm doing since 2017. And that's what I want to do for more years ahead. Everything.
That's brilliant to have somebody like that shaped your values system, I suppose, and has led to the brilliant work that you're doing today. So Bruna, we can now hand over to you and see if you've got a question for Rob.
Yeah, I have. So my question is, what learning from your journey you could share, and what are the most challenging but also learnings from your trajectory you could share with us?
Yeah. So for me, Bruna, I think you're probably already doing it, to be honest with you. It is about taking a chance, taking calculated risks. And I think what sort of differentiates really good entrepreneurs from, say, employees or whatever, is those who are comfortable taking chances, making mistakes, learning from those mistakes and quickly moving on. I think you're doing all of those things already, to be honest with you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it is brilliant when you think about that. Yes, you've got to fail fast, isn't it? But sometimes just having that vision and then adjusting the sails as you need to, as you go and evolve. Great learnings. Okay, on the Lens podcast, we've built up a little bit of a book club type thing. So we have a stockpile now of fabulous recommendations of good reads or listens for our listeners to, I suppose, help them be more responsible, feel inspired. If you could encourage our listeners to read one piece of research, one report, one book that has inspired you to be more responsible, what would it be, Rob?
You've come to me first. Okay, I'm not going to give you a great answer here, Sarah, okay, because I am not a great reader of sort of management and research type books.
That's okay.
I read a lot of other stuff, but I want to tell you what inspires me much more than reading stuff is people. Okay, people and individuals. I keep coming back to that, and just let me share a very brief story if I can. There is an individual called Martin McKay from Northern Ireland, Bruna, a similar background to me. Grew up on a family farm in Northern Ireland. But where his life is different to mine is he's gone on to change the lives of hundreds of millions of people, shaped by an event in his own family where his father had a stroke when he was young. He developed software to help individuals read and write and be understood. His business was called Text Help. It's now merged with a very large company in the US, and it's rebranded as Everway. But they're on their way to changing hundreds of millions of lives to help people to read, be understood and understand better. And I just think it goes to show what can be done from what would be very small, humble beginnings. So it's individuals that inspire me more than books or reading, to be honest with you, Sarah.
I can see why. An incredible story. Bruna, what about you?
I could recommend a documentary called Human. It was filmed in 2015, and I think the director is Jan Arthurs. So this documentary is very unique because it explores the human condition through a very human and intimate way from different people from a lot of different countries and different cultures. So as our dialogue here is about migrants, refugees, inclusion, diversity, I definitely would recommend the documentary called Human. It's changed my perspective and inspires me to want to get to know more about another cultures. So this is one recommendation I would definitely do.
A brilliant recommendation. I've written that one down. I'm going to hunt it out myself. I love a good documentary. Everybody learns in different ways, but if it can encourage us to think differently and change our default behaviours, then that's a wonderful thing. Okay, last question. It's the same question I ask all of the guests sitting where you are today, and it's about, as responsible leaders, what are you personally committed to doing more of or less of in the coming year? So Bruna this time.
I'm committed to doing more of what truly moves me and moves impact, to listen to the communities we serve. So investing time in partnerships with those communities to be together. And what I want to do less is of trying to do everything at the same time. As leaders, we often carry too much, and I'm learning to become more focused and focus my energy where we can create more systemic change.
Absolutely, love that. Rob, what are you personally committed to doing more of or less of in the next year?
Yeah, so for me, I'm always going to struggle to do less of something, Sarah. It's the type of person I am. Although I could take really good advice from Bruna, because often I do overstretch myself by always saying yes. But for me, it's driving even more inclusive growth. I've been in the very lucky position in EY Northern Ireland where I have the opportunity to create 1,000 new jobs here in Northern Ireland. And we're working hard to be an inclusive employer across a number of different fronts. Inclusion, there's many different forms to it. But I actually think we can do even more. I think my experience over the past 12 months with business in the community, even this conversation with Bruna today, it can inspire me and the team to do even more around that. And maybe just secondly, what I'm going to try and do more of as well is I have reached a sort of milestone birthday this year as well. And it's a time to reflect again. And I probably do think I'm at the stage of my career now where I do have experience to share with the next generation and try and inspire them to come through and do the right thing, particularly around entrepreneurship. So those are the two things I'm going to focus on.
Intergenerational learning and wisdom, I think you call it, Rob. It has been an absolute pleasure to talk to you both. I think this has been a wonderful pairing today. Thank you so much to the Lens guests, Rob Heron, Northern Ireland Managing Partner of EY, and joining us again from Brazil, Bruna Amaral. So fabulous to hear about what you have achieved and many more years, hopefully, to come, co-founder and Executive Director of Toti. You've been listening to The Lens with me, Sarah Travers, and if your business would like support to be stronger in supporting your people, the planet, or the places in which you are located, please visit our website www.bitc.org.uk. Thank you for listening, everyone, and tune in next time.